On Christ, the solid rock, I stand. No other ground is sinking sand. No other ground. You know, I love the story of Paul. And why do I love the story of Paul? Because Paul didn't start out as Paul. He started out as Saul. Saul was somebody that had made up his mind that whatever it is, I'm going to keep the church pure. I'm going to make sure that there is no dissident in my home church. I'm going to make sure that all dissident is kept afar off from this congregation. Saul's decide that no matter what, no matter who, I am going to stand for principle. And so when it came to people who started to talk about Jesus Christ as Lord, he would have none of that. There were people like Stephen. Stephen was supposed to be stoned. The person that was in charge of all of that was Saul. And why? Because he made up his mind that the church was supposed to be pure. And so when they were going to stone Stephen, they laid all their garments at the feet of Saul. Saul decided that he read something in the Bible about territory. He said, Lord, expand my territory. And so therefore, he was not satisfied for his influence to be local. He decided that he was going to go to a place called Damascus. And he was going to hunt anyone that was in leadership of this new group called Christianity. But while on his way there, he was on a white horse, I would suppose. He had some people going with him as disciples. Saul was on his horse heading towards Damascus. Something happened to Saul that day, preacher. He saw something and he heard something. He saw a lightning and he heard a voice. And that was the change that came over this individual. Yes, the lightning came. Pow! Then he heard the voice of Jesus. He shouted back to Jesus and he said, Lord, what will thou have me to do? Saul, although he was a persecutor, he was an honest persecutor. But when he heard the voice of Jesus, and Jesus said, what will, Lord, it is time for you to do what I want you to do. He was willing to obey. Trust and obey. Saul had this great ministry. He raised up so many churches. He had 3 great missionary journeys. And after his last missionary journey, he was confined for a number of years. Almost 2 years he was confined to house arrest. Now he was supposed to be taken to Caesar. But although he was supposed to be taken to Caesar, it seemed as though at the time of the year, a lot of us who are from the West Indies, we do know what is called the hurricane season. And the hurricane season starts in June and it goes up until November. At any time during that season, you can have major storms. If you live in Florida, most likely you will bear the brunt of those storms. Paul understood. Paul said to them, gentlemen, I have no problem going to Caesar, but you better stay right here. There's going to be a storm. You better stay right here. There's going to be a storm. And so that's the context in which our scripture reading is taken from. And I'm going to read our scripture reading one more time with the addition of 2 verses. And that's the 2 last verse from chapter 27 in the book of Acts. So come with me as we look at this story. It's very, very interesting. My sermon will be as short as I am. So stay with me. Don't miss a word. Very important. I'm going to start to read from verse 20. It says, and when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest laid on us, all hope that we would be saved were gone or taken away. But after long abstinence from food, Paul stood in the midst of them and said, sirs, you should have listened to me and not loose from Crete, and to have gained this harm on yourselves. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life amongst you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, fear not, brother Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar. For lo, God has given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God that it shall even be the way I'm saying it now. Verse 43 and 44. But the centurion, willing to save Paul, kept them from their purpose, and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land, and the rest, some on boards, some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped, and all safe to land. The caption of my sermon today is, you too can make it. I want you to turn to your neighbor right now and tell your neighbor these words. You too can make it. Could you do that for me? Sometimes when we say things, we ought to say it as though we believe it. I heard some mumbling right now. But I want you to say to your neighbor in a way that you believe it. Say to your neighbor, neighbor, you too can make it. That sounds a little better, Pastor Case. Not just that, but I want you to celebrate with your neighbor right now in a prophetic way. Say to your neighbor, neighbor, you too can make it. And at the end, give your neighbor a high five because you believe it. Come on, let's go. Neighbor, you too can make it. Come on, sister. You too can make it. You too can make it. I'm happy for you. You too can make it. Yes. You can make it. I remember I was a boy at a school called Portland High School. Anybody here from Jamaica? All right. Portland High School was a new school being established at the time. It was just about 10 years old when I became a student there. So it was very small, still in its infancy. And the first individual that gained a bachelor's degree at the then West Indies College came back to school. Can you imagine the excitement? His name was R.A. Gordon. He came here to this conference and also to the Northeastern Conference. He had served as youth director of the East Jamaica Conference. Anybody remember Pastor R.A. Gordon? He was the pastor of the Grand Concourse Church, the North Bronx Church, and he was the leader of the youth department in the entire New York City. He was the first person to graduate from West Indies College with 2 degrees at the same time. And he came there, and we were boys, and the topic of the mornings was, you too can make it. And I believed it. We gave ourselves high five that morning because he allowed us to buy into the idea that no matter what, whether or not we had breakfast that morning, whether or not we had proper shoes on, we could make it. Matter of fact, most of us made it. God has blessed this young man so far, I'm telling you. In my car right now, I drive mostly expensive cars. I have an old car outside. But if you come to my home, I have about 4 expensive cars. I just love cars. And in my car, let me tell you this, I have a stone. I have a stone that I took from the Rio Grande River. And anywhere I go in the world, I take my stone with me to remind me as to where I'm from. A lot of people, they don't remember where they're from, and that is why they have no idea where they're going. A lot of us, we have no idea of our history, and that is why we are just blown with the wind. But when we know where we are coming from and where God has brought us, when we have problems, we can turn to the same Lord and say, Lord, you have done this for me in the past, and I have confidence that you can take me to the future. I just love the Lord. So sometimes I get a little loud, but it's just about what God has done for me. Remember, I told you, when I came to this church, I came as a baby in somebody's womb that did not even have shoes on their feet. God has blessed me. God has blessed me so far. You too can make it. So now, I remember one night, I'm in bed with my wife. I just came home from doing some Bible studies. About midnight, the phone rang, and when the phone rang, I'm like, my wife is like, I said, I need to answer this, honey. She said, no, you're not touching the phone tonight. So I didn't answer the phone. Happy wife, happy life. About 3 minutes later, the phone rang again. It was the same number. Sometimes you have to outvote your wife in the night. And so I answered. When I answered, it was a member of the church. And she said, Pastor, you need to come right now. My aunt is dying. And so I said to my wife, I got to go. I put my clothes on real fast and I headed toward the hospital. By the time I got to the hospital, I saw her coming crying. And she said, my aunt didn't make it. We cried. I ministered to her. I reassured her that if she's faithful, on the resurrection morning, she will see her aunt again. It was a Monday night, Pastor. I live in Westchester, but my basketball team is here in Brooklyn. And I've been let down so much by the New York Nets. It's not funny. You too? And this year, they had Kyrie. Come on, we're talking good talk now. Some people don't understand. They had Kyrie. They had KD. They had the bearded one. Everything was set. They were supposed to go all the way, not only to the final, but they were supposed to win the NBA this year. Am I correct, sir? But one Monday night in Boston, something very bad happened. They lost. To who? Boston. It hurt. But then there was the argument. Next year will be better. You see, the aunt of my sister didn't make it. The Nets didn't make it. I love to go to amusement parks because there's still a boy inside of me. They will say that a woman will grow up, but a man never grows up. There is always a boy in a man. So I was at Great Adventure one Sunday with my family, and I was in this line to go on this ride, but there was a family in front of me, a Caucasian family. It was mother, father, a little girl, and a little boy. And so they were so excited to go on this ride. Father was all right. But then I see the little girl, the little boy, and the mother came up. The little girl went up to the line, and she was happy. But then they called the little boy up, and when he went up to the pole, he started to tippy-toe. You know those poles that they measure you? And I look, the little girl said to Daddy, Daddy, he didn't make it. He didn't make it. There are a lot of times the bar is so high sometimes that we strive to make it. But we just didn't make it. My sermon, you too can make it. There are 4 things that I want us to take away from the sermon today, and everybody should at least take away one thing, so stay with me. The first thing that I want you to realize is, do not allow your predicament to override your purpose. Stay with me on that one. Do not allow your predicament to override your purpose. Paul's purpose was supposed to be taken to Caesar. And sometimes in life, you understand what your purpose is. You see, there are 2 things in psychology that you have to understand. One, in terms of goal, we have to have 2 sets of goal. One is called your long-term objective. And 2 is your short-term goals. A lot of us, we have no objective in life. And that is why the wind would blow us where it wills. Because we have no plans. It's hard to look at some of our young people and say, what is your plan in life? Sometimes a wife would look at a husband and say, what's your plan in life? Too late. You should have asked that before you get married. And a lot of times we fail because we have no plan. There is nothing to work towards. I should have a plan under God. If God blesses me in 20 years, I would want to move out of that basement. At least move up to the attic. I've lived in basements before. I've lived in attic before. I understand. You have to start somewhere. But you have to have your long-term plan. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a pastor. I want to be a doctor, a nurse, something. Don't just let the wind blow you around. But then you have to have your short-term goals. So that's my 20-year plan. But in year number 1, I would like to save $5,000. In year number 2, I would like to buy a better car. In year number 3, I would like to finish this course in college. Especially young people, try and understand me today. I'm saying we need to have plans as we go forward. But make sure that Jesus Christ is in the midst of all the plans that you have. Don't allow your predicament to override your purpose. You see, I will tell you this, that failure to plan is planning to fail. Failure to plan is planning to fail. You see, this world is not my home. I'm only passing through. Heaven is my goal. But while I'm here, I'm going to occupy until he comes. Don't allow anyone to derail you from your plan. Whether it's your husband, don't allow him to derail you. Whether it's your wife, whether it's your friend, not even your church sister. Don't allow that individual to derail you. Your plan, his plan, he was supposed to be taken to Caesar. A lot of things sometimes would seem as hindrance to your plan. The environment. You will say, because I live in this environment, it is not conducive for people who want to study. There is so much gunshots. I remember some time ago during the pandemic when it was at its worst, Pastor McFoy and I, we used to do a Friday night taping for Sabbath school. And we had thousands of people watching us from all over the world. And we would tape that program on a Friday night. Sometime midnight we are still taping to be broadcast on Sabbath morning. And sometime we would hear a car going off in the background. And we have to scrap it and start to tape all over again. The environment. Sometimes your environment is not conducive. So you might think. But let me tell you something. There is a plant called a lily. Anybody knows a lily? You know a lily? Do you know where a lily is grown? It is grown in a swamp. A beautiful lily that you can smell. It smells so nice. But where it is grown in a stagnant water. You too can make it. You know, sometimes we think about your physical appearance. I am not as tall as Pastor K. Pastor K is much taller than I am. When I was a young boy in high school, I used to hear the girls talk about the husband that I want is supposed to be tall, dark, and handsome. I was eliminated from that But thank God, thank God, the Holy Spirit spoke to a young lady who was much taller than I am. Thank God. So my physical appearance didn't stop me from my goals. Some people talk about your family line. You're not born in the Kennedys or in the Joneses, but you're from a no-name family. Not just a no-name family, but you're from a one individual family where you were fathered by your mother. Maybe somebody don't understand that. You don't understand that. When your mother has to be your father, she has to work 3 shifts sometimes in order to keep something on the table. And not only that, sometimes even when she worked the 3 shifts, you have to go missing one of the meals sometime because there is not enough money. But you give God the glory and you keep your focus. You're in school and you don't squander what you have, but you have a goal in mind. What about things like Moses? When I consider somebody like Moses who used to stutter. Yes, Moses used to stutter because he said, Lord, I can't speak. I have an impairment. So God is sending him to Pharaoh, and what he's going to do and say, Pharaoh, the Lord said, let my people go. But let me tell you something. He became the greatest leader that this world has ever seen. Moses. If God calls you, he will equip you. Barack Obama met his father once, but he became the president of the greatest country on earth. Our present president right now, they used to laugh up at him in school because he stuttered so much, but he's the president of the United States. No matter what you're going through, young people, keep your focus in mind. God will take care of you. I'll tell you just about one more little boy, one more little guy. There was a guy called Isaac Watts in England. And Isaac Watts was celebrated as a great poet. And towards the end of his life, they had a parade in London for Isaac Watts. Many people, in those days, there were no television and things like that. So many people didn't know what he looked like. But they came out to celebrate this great poet, Isaac Watts. And he was in this carriage and he was coming down the street. And there were thousands of people waving Isaac Watts, Isaac Watts, Isaac Watts. When he reached to a section of the crowd, a tall Irish lady shouted out, "Is that little man Isaac Watts?" You see, Isaac Watts was shorter than Napoleon. Napoleon was 4 feet 10. Isaac Watts, it said, was 4 feet 8. Isaac Watts shouted back at the lady and said, "The mind is the measure of the man. It's not about your physical appearance, my brothers and sisters. It is what you can conceive in your mind. You too can make it. You too can make it. My Bible said he will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth and feed you with the heritage of Jacob thy father. For the mouth of the Lord of birth. Do you know who you are? You don't have to go to that woman over the hill. You don't have to go to that man around the corner that you can only go at night. Anybody remember Miss Cleo? We all remember Miss Cleo, right? She could tell you everything that would happen to you, but she couldn't tell you that the FBI was coming after her. The last time I heard about Miss Cleo, she's still in federal prison. You're a royal priesthood. You're a holy nation. I'm going to bless them that bless you. I'm going to curse them that curse you. So whether or not you think you were born on the right side of the track or the wrong side of the track, in the wrong state, in the wrong country, on the wrong island, in the wrong parish, the wrong ethnicity, let me tell you something, that your Father is Jesus Christ. The mind is the measure of the man. You know, when I look back at the text, there is something else that I see on the text. Is that God will be with you in the midst of your storm. I don't know what you're going through right now. But let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. When you come to church, you will see all sorts of people dressed up in their Sabbath best. And they're smiling their Sabbath smile. But if you know what they're going through, some of us, we can't pay the rent. Some of us, they're coming to possess our cars. Some of us, we have problem. Wife and husband have problem. But when you come to church, you just have to put on that Sabbath smile. So we are going through hell and high water. Pastor, you don't know what a lot of people are going through. But when you are in the midst of your storm, remember that Jesus Christ is there with you. I must have the Savior with me, for I dare not walk alone. I must feel His presence near me, for His hands around me troll. That I soul shall fear no ill. Let me lead me where I will go, without a murmur, and His footsteps follow them. When you're in the midst of the storm, when you think as though there is nobody there with you, when you think as though there is no one to talk to, when you think as though there is no one who would understand your situation, I tell you, turn it over to Jesus. Let me tell you something. I will tell you this. Husbands, not every problem you have to even discuss it with your wife. Wives, not every problem you have, you can discuss it with your sister or with your church sister. But I can tell you, there is somebody, there is somebody who at all times you can go to. You can go to Him in the morning, go to Him in the evening, because He hears you and He understands you. Take it to the Lord in prayer. That's why the song says 499, it says, what a friend we have in Jesus. All our sins and all our grief to bear. What a privilege to carry. Not something, but everything. Everything to God in person. Let me tell you something. Sometimes you have some little issues. Have your devotion at home. But you see, when your husband gone and he leaves to work, then you have another devotion with your Lord. Because there is some things that you need to go down one-on-one with your Jesus. Because He alone will understand you. He alone your burdens bear. Take it to The Lord Emperor. God is with you in your storm. He is the omnipresent God. He said in Isaiah 43, he said, when you're in the water, when the river seemed to overflow its bank, he said, I'm going to be there with you. Yes, remember, there was a time when Moses was surrounded. He had mountains to the right, preacher. He had a mountain to the left, preacher. He had Pharaoh and his army coming behind him. He had the Red Sea before him. Where should you turn? But I heard a voice from heaven say, as he told Moses, and Moses went up on the rock, and he spoke to the children of Israel. He said, stand still. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The Egyptians that you see today, you will see them again no more forever, for the Lord. You are back active in your war? Some of us, we used to have big brothers when we went to school. So when they gang up on you, you call your big brother. I was a short guy, so I know how to play the game. You know what? I didn't have no big brother, but you know what I had? I had 2 feet, and I could run. I could run. I would always run away, because I was told he that fight and run away will live to fight again another day. And so let me tell you something. The Lord was with me because I was fleet-footed. But in Isaiah, he said, even when you're in the fire, the Lord is going to be there with you. And so my mind take me to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Daniel chapter 3. He didn't take them out of the fire. But when they went in the fire, my Jesus was in the fire waiting for them. My Jesus is saying, this is your condition, boy. You serve me. You serve me, the people that put you inside here, judgment on them. But I'm going to be with you. So whatever you're going through, whatever your situation is, God will be with you in the storm. You see, the old slippery serpent will set a trap for you, my sisters and my brothers, and you slide and you fall. Lord, you get up and you start to walk again. And you know it's him. But you're going in a different direction. And he set another trap over there. And you slip and you fall. But sometimes you just have to stand up and you have to look on the serpent and say, I know who you are. You are Satan. You have to call him by his name. Yes. You have to just look on Satan. And you have to say, you try before and you get me. You try again and you get me. But you see, this time, on Christ, the solid rock I stand. No other ground is sinking sand. No other ground is sinking sand. Let him try. It's not the amount of time that you fall. It's that one extra time that you stand up for Jesus Christ. So number one. What was number one? Don't allow your predicament to derail you from your purpose. Number two, God will be with you in the midst of your storm. I tell you one more. Watch out with who you hang as company. My grandmother used to say, boy, show me. Somebody help me. Come on. Show me your company and show me your company and I tell you who you are. And I'm saying that right now to Beulah land. Show me your company, and I will tell you who you are. If you hang out with bad company, what that say? You will end up becoming. But what if you hang out with good company? What if you hang out with good company? Because when I look in the Word of God, the Word of God says that, for there stood by me this night this angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, Paul, fear not, for thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God has given thee all of them that sailed with me. So everyone on the ship was supposed to be saved. Why? Because they were in the company of Paul. Show me your company, and I will tell you who you are. Be careful of who you keep company with. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, there was a young man in California. Let me see if anybody remember this. I think it was a little before Pastor Case was born. His name was Jim Jones. Anybody ever hear that name before? Oh, Jim Jones. Jim Jones was a preacher. Very fiery preacher. He had a lot of support in California, especially from older individuals in the ghetto. And one day Jim Jones said to him, well, we are persecuted. And so let us go somewhere where we can live our lives the way we want to live our lives. And so he told them, down there in South America, there's a country called Guyana. We can get cheap land down there. We can form a commune, and we can live the way we want to live. And so his church purchased a couple 1,000 acres of land down there in Guyana for cheap. He said we can raise livestock. We can even dig for gold down there. They bought into it, and hundreds of his supporters left from California, and they went to Guyana. Show me your company. Good company, things will work out all right. But bad company, it's a problem. Pastor, this was before you were born. But Jim Jones and about 900 of his followers perish because he gave them bad communion. They got some Kool-Aid that was laced with cyanide, and they all died down there. So not because the person says he's a pastor. Let me tell you this. I'm telling you this. Without fear. Not because the individual goes with a title that says pastor, it means that you should follow him. Let him show you it from the word. Thus said the Lord. If he can't show you, thus said the Lord, you go your way, my brother. There are so many televangelists on the radio, on the television, and they're telling you so many things just to get your money. You need to sow a seed. And the seed that you should sow is not no $10 seed. At least when you buy certain stocks on the stock market, you can get certain stocks for even $5. But these televangelists, they're telling you you need to sow a seed, and they want you to sow $1,000 seed. Am I right? Am I right? $1,000 seed. But you know what's this leading to? They're buying a jet, and you're having your house being foreclosed on. show me your company, and I tell you who you are. I want to bring this to an end. But I promise you that there was 4 things I want you to know. The last one is in verse 44. It says, and the rest some on boards, some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to land. There are some of us who will escape on broken pieces. Broken pieces. You can't swim. But by the mercies of God, by the grace of God, on broken pieces of the ship, it means little pieces. Come on. I tell you this. Grandmother used to wake up and pray. And whether Pastor Case love it, yes or no, when his mother wake him up at 5 o'clock and start to sing song number 27. What song number 27 say? Rejoice. Rejoice? Rejoice? Oh, you know it? Okay. Song number 27 in the morning. And when grandmother used to pray, and even if you move out of the house and you're gone, grandma kept praying. And when you used to go to Sabbath school and something kept ringing in your ears, now you move out and you move in with this lady and she giving you a piece of pork to eat. And you remember that when you were in Sabbath school, you remember Leviticus that say you're not supposed to eat anything that is common or unclean. And when you pass down the road and you see everybody running to the store to buy lotto, and you remember that grandmother showed you that you wasn't supposed to be a gambler. Broken pieces. Broken pieces. It comes back to remind you that although you're hanging on to just a little piece, I've seen over time people have come back to the church and they come to me and they said, I want to be baptized. I said that when I was a boy, my grandmother used to take me to church, and I remember all these years that the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord. Broken pieces. Whatever it is, you will be saved. You hang on to those broken pieces. You make sure, because no matter what, you too can make it. You too can make it. If Obama could become president, you too could make it. If I could become a minister of religion, you too can make it. If Moses could become the greatest leader that this country has ever seen, the world has ever seen, you too can make it. Because Jesus said, I will be lifted up if you know, let me tell you something. When the devil see the weakest sinner on his knees, he starts to tremble. And that is where you start. You start on your knees. My brothers and sisters, I just stopped by here today to tell you this on the authority of the Word of God. You too can make it.